Today I will be presenting a Stereognosis with hygiene care products activity that I have written for use for a specific client at Danville State Hospital. My client is a 59-year-old man that has been diagnosed with schizophrenia, intellectual disability, generalized anxiety, and depression. He currently is struggling with performing basic oral hygiene and body hygiene care by himself due to his different diagnosis, not being able to discern the different hygiene care products, and sexual abuse sustained during his childhood due to the hands of his father. The purpose of this activity is to be able to have the client in a group of men and not feel self-conscious, and to be able to discern different hygiene care products for self-care use. The supplies for this activity are as follows. You will first and foremost need a drawstring bag to hold all of the items. And inside, you can provide either specific healthcare items for your client or general items for a group if you're choosing to do it that way. The items that I have included for my specific client are a loofah, body lotion, a bar of soap, shampoo, face wash, toothpaste, mouthwash, a toothbrush, deodorant, and a fine tooth comb. Directions to run this intervention as an individual activity are as follows. First, you would have the consumer reach into the bag without having them look at the contents of the bag. Once they have secured an item in their hand, allow them to move it around and to feel it, run their fingers over it, and ask them to describe to you what they are feeling. They can describe to you the size, the temperature, or the texture of the item. Next, you would have them take a guess as to what they believe the item is. Now, once they correctly guess the item or close enough to your liking, they'll pull out the item and you can talk about what the item is used for. So for example, if they pulled out the fine tooth comb, you can talk about how they could brush their hair and other things that the item may be used for. Then you would discard the item either in another bag or next to the bag, and you would go in again and repeat until all the items in the bag are gone. The directions to run this as a group activity are very similar to the directions to run it as an individual activity. First, you would have the consumer reach their hand into the bag without visualizing any of the contents of the bag. Once they have secured an object in their hand, they can run their fingers over it to get a good idea of what the object feels like. Then they would describe how the object feels, such as size, temperature, or shape of the object, to the other group members. The group members would then shout out different responses as to what they believe the object is. Once somebody has correctly identified the object, the consumer would pull it out of the bag and show the contents to the rest of the group members. Then the rest of the group members, as well as the consumer holding the object, will go through what this specific object can be used for. Once they have correctly identified it and correctly identified how to properly and safely use the object, the item can then be discarded in another bag or next to the bag, and the bag will be passed around the circle to the next consumer, and the process would then repeat as follows. In order to complete this activity, the consumer needs to have proprioception skills so that they can understand where their hand is in relation to the bag. They also need sensory modalities such as temperature and pain discrimination in order to feel what is in the bag, and if something is sharp or dull, feel the textures of the specific item. They also need to have the ability to discriminate between the items cognitively and physically. They also need tactile perception to recognize the property of the items. 3 ways of grading this activity up are to ask the client to describe the item without the therapist correctly identifying what the item is, to add more specific items into the bag rather than just generalized items, and either begin the activity with the items already inside of the bag, or do not show the contents of the bag to the consumer before adding them. 3 ways of grading this activity down are to allow the client to see each item before placing them into the bag, to provide a full and complete list of all of the items that are contained inside of the bag, and to start the activity with less items in the bag so they don't have to go through as many at one time.